sound like Gucci cooperated. You sound like the victim. Gucci was a victim and gave his testimony. Come on over here with me, Gucci. It's all right. It's all right to go and be civilian. Yeah. Come on. Yeah, come on over here with me, Gucci. Press charges on their ass to the full extent of the law. That's how you get to niggas. Now, I don't hear nobody telling Gucci not to press charges like they try to convince me not to press charges on Thug. I don't hear nobody calling Gucci a hoe ass nigga for pressing charges. They done put somebody down there in a coma, hold a nigga. That's like Suge Knight holding that boy upside down over the balcony, that Vanilla Ice boy. I signed the contract. I live there. Man, that's like there. Yeah.
Apparently on January 10th, Gucci goes from Atlanta to Dallas, where Pooh Shiesty's been held in a halfway house, but he could leave for some work-related stuff. He tells them, I'm leaving to go to the studio. He goes to the studio. Gucci meets him at the studio. This was a pre-planned meet. The plan was to talk about contracts, to probably listen to music. This was almost like touching back base again for these guys ever since he's got out. Once he gets there, I don't know how the conversation starts, how it goes left, or if it goes left initially, but Lontrell Williams, a.k.a. Pooh Shiesty, wants Gucci to sign paperwork to let him out the deal. It's not clear if Gucci was even given a chance to decline or not, but apparently situations did get so tense, Pooh Shiesty pulls out a Draco. Then other people brandish guns. Big 30, another rapper, he blocks the door, and it's unclear what the father is doing at the time. After that, there's a gun pointed towards Gucci's head. There is a part that we get from Hernandez Govan that said that someone was in the fetal position or like an execution position, which we almost have to imagine on your knees, hands up, or something of the sort. And after he signs this paper, he supposedly is signing the release paper, and he says, yo, this ain't how it goes. It got to go through the lawyers. And reportedly, either Pooh Shiesty or someone there says to him, man, shut your ass up, nigga. We could have just shot your ass on GP. They then relinquish him of all his earthly possessions. They take off his wedding band. They unscrew his earring. They take his watch. There's other people with there's another guy who supposedly had like something, and they took stuff from him. And they left with the document that was signed. Now, I want to tell you how it kind of works. Drafting up paperwork for a release out of a contract usually takes somebody who is in legal to kind of understand the contract. And it's not just, a one line like, hey, you're out of this contract. It kind of is, it's a squaring away of things, so to speak. So I have to imagine that before they got to this situation, there was ongoing conversation of Pooh Shiesty saying, yo, bro, y'all wasn't there for Big Scar. Y'all wasn't there for me. Yo, bro, I want to get up on out of the deal. And maybe Gucci was like, you know what? Maybe I could sweeten the deal for you to make you stay because now you're popping again. And look like Pooh Shiesty's not going, or whatever Gucci says he's not with. And now he's going to bully his way out of it. Forces him to sign, takes off all his stuff, and they dip. Yo, Fruit Jams in the chat. What up?
Also, Pooh Shiesty is not out of his contract. You guys got to stop getting on this internet saying that he did a good job because now he's free from him. No, he's not. He actually might owe him more money. I'm not speaking towards this comment, by the way. If you guys paid attention in school, now that it's been proven that he was forced to sign that contract by Pooh Shiesty, it's voided and the agreement still stands. So now Pooh Shiesty basically got to sit in jail and still pay Gucci. Not only that, Gucci and his record label, which they already showing they're about to do, can sue Pooh Shiesty and make it so he basically get more money off of bro. He on a 360 deal, man. That nigga in an infinity deal now. Y'all keep talking about something he did great. No, he didn't. He back with boys. He got to tickle boys and give all his money to Gucci now. Mind you, he could have easily finished his contract. Bro just had to give him 3 albums. It was over. He could have made throwaway songs. He could have pulled a little Uzi. But nope. We kidnapping people while we have ankle monitors on 4K camera, and now we got to be with boys again. Like, we gotta be real. Like, come on, guys. We gotta be real. We gotta start thinking with our brain.
I'm not a criminal, but if I was, I feel like the #1 rule would be don't commit crimes while wearing an ankle monitor. So anyway, I just got my hands on the 32-page federal criminal complaint for Pooh Shiesty, his daddy, Big 30, and 6 others. So let me walk you through what the feds are alleging happened in this complaint. So let's start off with the defendants. There's Lontrell Williams Jr., aka Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., his daddy, Rodney White Jr., aka Big 30, Demarcus Glover, Darian McDaniel, Terrence Rogers, Corday Johnson, Kadarius Waters, and Demarion Gibson. And they're all charged with kidnapping, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and robbery stemming from an incident that happened on January 10th, 2026 in Dallas, Texas. So according to the complaint, on January 10th, 2026, 3 victims who are referred to by their initials in the complaint, and the first victim has the initials RD, as in Raydrick Davis.
I'm Raydrick Davis, but the ladies call me Gucci's baby.
MM and BP. It says they all flew into Dallas for what they thought was a business meeting. Lontrell Williams Jr., Pooh Shiesty, was signed to RD's label 1017 since around 2021. Okay, so it's clear RD is Gucci Mane. So I'm just gonna say Gucci. Okay. And the point of this meeting was because Pooh Shiesty was upset with the terms of his contract and he wanted to be released from his contract. So Pooh asked Gucci to come to Dallas so they could meet about, quote, business. Gucci, his head of security, another security officer, and the other 2 victims pull up to the studio around 1:45 for this meeting, but it was closed. Around 3:15, Pooh Shiesty's dad, William Sr., gets the owner of the studio to open it up for them. William Sr. is seen on video surveillance at 3:28 standing outside of the building on his phone. According to the complaint, at 3:43, so about 15 minutes later, Pooh Shiesty, his dad, Big 30, and the other 6 defendants enter the studio where Gucci and his team had already been waiting. Now, apparently, at this point, Pooh Shiesty, who has an ankle monitor, gets a call from his probation or his parole officer because he's not at home. Pooh tells the officer that his caseworker gave him permission to be out for, quote, rec time, but the officer tells Pooh that's not the case. He doesn't have rec time and he needs to return home immediately. The complaint says that Gucci and his team overhear this phone call, so Gucci tells Pooh that they can reschedule their meeting, but Pooh says he wants to talk to Gucci privately. So the 2 of them go into a separate recording room, and according to the complaint, Pooh brings out a contract termination or contract release document and tells Gucci to sign it. Gucci says he doesn't want to sign the document, and so the complaint says the 2 of them begin arguing. Pooh then tells Rodney White Jr., who again is Big 30, to get his bag, and when Big 30 returns with the bag, Pooh allegedly pulls out a black AK-style pistol, points it at Gucci, and then demands he signs the contract release. Gucci then signs, and while he's doing that, William Sr. and Big 30 guard the door of the recording room so that Gucci can't leave. According to the document, after Gucci signs the document, Pooh allegedly takes Gucci's wedding ring, his watch, earrings, and his cash from him. Gucci apparently forgot to date his signature, and so after reviewing the document, Pooh gives him the document back so he can add the date, and then they're all good. Now, when they are exiting that recording room, the other defendants who were still in the main studio area pulled out their weapons and allegedly demanded the other victims to give them their stuff. The document says victim PB was pushed onto a couch in the control room while an individual named as CMO Damfu searched his pockets and stole his wallet. BP's 1017 chain and a necklace were also stolen from him by someone he knew as Glizzy 375. The document says BP was also able to identify someone he knew as Baby Slime 375 and another individual he knew as KD. Now, during this incident, the complaint alleges that MM, the other victim, was choked from behind to the point of nearly losing consciousness, resulting in him having scratches on his neck and wrist. MM's Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag containing multiple other high-dollar watches, his Apple AirPod headphones, and his wallet were all stolen from him, but he happened to have an Apple AirTag located in the Louis Vuitton bag, and so he provided that to law enforcement, which were able to track the last known location. And then, according to the complaint, Pooh Shiesty pointed the barrel of the firearm to the back of BP's head and orders him and Gucci to leave the studio. According to law enforcement, video surveillance shows the defendants leaving the building at approximately 4:58 p.m. So that's the outline of what the feds say happened at the studio. So now let's get into some of the evidence law enforcement says they have to show that these defendants committed this crime. And it starts with some surveillance videos recovered from another building in the area. That video shows a white Buick Enclave, a black Dodge Charger Hellcat, and a black Dodge Ram all pulling off shortly after the incident. And according to police records, Rodney Wright Jr.'s father owns a 2020 Dodge Charger Hellcat bearing a Tennessee license plate. And the Buick that was with the cars was actually a rental car. And after getting a subpoena for records from Hertz, law enforcement learns that Lontrell Williams Sr. rented the car on December 29, 2025 with a return date of January 11, 2026, the day after this incident. Next up, the document goes into Pooh Shiesty's ankle monitor. The document notes that Pooh Shiesty had just been put on house arrest on October 31st, 2025 for a firearms charge. And a part of his conditions for this house arrest was that he would not possess any deadly weapon or knowingly be in the company of a person possessing the same. It also notes that he was required to wear an electronic monitoring device, and that same monitoring device confirmed that he was at or near the location of this incident around the time of this incident. Next up, the document talks about a trip Lontrell Williams Sr. took to Staples around 1:15 on the day of the incident. Now remember, Gucci and his team didn't get inside the studio until around 3:15, and according to this complaint, at approximately 1:50 p.m., Williams Sr. was seen on video entering a Staples. His rented Buick Enclave can be seen on surveillance video parking near the front of the store, and then when Williams comes into the store, he goes directly to the copy printer machine. And so, investigators are alleging that due to the timing of this Staples trip, they believe Williams Sr. was there to print off the contractual release that he later presented to Gucci at the studio. All right, next up are cell phone records. And according to investigators, they say that these records show some of the defendants driving from Memphis on January 8th and arriving in Dallas in the early morning hours of January 9th. And if one person having an ankle monitor wasn't enough, defendant Glover apparently also had an ankle monitor on, and his monitor also aligns with what all the other evidence is showing. Investigators also received records from Greyhound, which apparently showed defendants Glover, Rogers, Gibson, and McDaniel traveling from Dallas, Texas back to Memphis, Tennessee after the alleged incident. 3 of the other defendants who didn't take the Greyhound drove back to Memphis in the Hellcat, and when they got to Memphis, they stayed at a Comfort Inn, and while they were there, the Hellcat was apparently reported stolen. I'm assuming that's on purpose, but there's a lot going on. But after learning about the defendants being at the Comfort Inn, investigators were able to get surveillance video from that hotel, and they see that at some point almost all of the defendants had been at the Comfort Inn, and they're all wearing some of the same clothing that was seen on video at the studio. And then investigators were able to lift some fingerprints off of cups that were left in the studio, and they matched those to defendant Gibson and defendant Rogers. Now, after all of that corroborating evidence, law enforcement says they then used Instagram to help identify some of these defendants. First up was Pooh Shiesty, who was easily identifiable because all of the victims knew his real name and his stage name. And then when it comes to Lontrell Williams Sr., they all knew that he was Pooh Shiesty's dad. The document says all 3 victims were able to identify Rodney White as Big 30. And because some of these defendants made posts on Instagram shortly after the incident, that also helped law enforcement. For example, victim BP knew Rogers as his Instagram page, Damnfool375. And after law enforcement was able to match his pictures to his state ID, they figured out his name. But in addition to that, Rogers was also seen on Instagram wearing a Rolex that appeared to be similar to the one stolen from MM. And then there's defendant Glover, whose Instagram name is Twin CMO, and his Instagram account later posted stories of him having a Rolex, a large amount of cash, and tagged Dallas, Texas as his location. Now, is the point to get away with the crime or not? There was also a post of him wearing a 1017 chain that was similar to the one that was stolen from BP at the studio. All right, you get the point. And so, in conclusion, law enforcement says there is probable cause to believe that on January 10, 2026, in Dallas, Texas, DeMarcus Glover, Demarion Gibson, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel, Terrence Rogers, Kadarius Waters, Lontrell Williams Jr., Lontrell Williams Sr., and Rodney White Jr. all conspired and committed these crimes. And so, they've been arrested. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but even if your point was to get out of the contract, forcing someone to do it under duress would still invalidate the contract release, right? Like you can't force someone to sign a document. That defeats the point. But I'm not a lawyer or a criminal, so what do I know? And this is all alleged, so we'll see what happens.
If Gucci Mane would have took matters into his own hand and let's say had Pooh Shiesty and them taken away from their world, everybody would be calling Gucci Mane so stupid for right now. Whatever happened is Pooh Shiesty and them fault. Start with the problem. Anything else is irrelevant.
Well, in my opinion, if somebody would have did that to me, I would have sent them to God. I would have sent them straight to God. I would have waited and waited until I got the right moment. I sent them to God. I want to never did. You know, that's just my way of doing things. That's what I would have did.
Yes. Pay attention to what you're doing now.
So I just told them what I would have did if that would have been done to me.
I didn't hear what you would have did.
I would have waited. And I would have sent them to God.
Bro, I don't know you with it, bro.
Who?
No, you with it, bro.
I'm not gonna let nobody take that from me. Take my. I thought they say he took your wedding ring.
What's more